Hey Adam, it's me, or you from the future. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't intend to send you this video, um, but today I was thinking about it, and I realized it's been 5 years since then, and maybe if I could, I could go back in time and actually talk to you myself. But I can't. And the best I can do is make this video knowing that you're never going to see it. Yeah, I know. I look a bit different. And I know you don't recognize any of this background. A lot's happened in the last 5 years, as you can imagine. A lot of people will ask you in your job, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I guarantee you, this ain't it. This is not where I would have seen myself in 5 years. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I finally got that facial hair going. It is still pretty scraggly. Hey, it's better than what yours is. It's better than what you can grow right now at your point. But yeah, last year. Today is November 18th, 2024. Back in October, late October, around Halloweenish, is when Halloween's the last day. Halloween, October 31st, 2023 was the last day I shaved. So that's kind of what you're seeing here. But I wanted to see, kind of how if I grew up my hair and my facial hair, how it would look, And obviously I started needing glasses, got astigmatism. So got a whole change going, even lost a little bit of weight. So way less than you now. And wearing new rings as well. Yeah, because the rings that you have do not fit me anymore. Isn't that interesting? But if you're probably wondering why specifically it's you that I'm talking to, and not like, I don't know, an older version. I could be talking to 14-year-old me, but instead I decided to choose to talk to 19-year-old me. And you might be wondering why. And the reason is because that's the worst it ever gets. It's the worst, essentially kind of the peak of how bad things get for you. This is what, a year or so. I think by this time, you've left Scouts, and I think the last time you talked to any of those guys was January of 2019, and you realized that pretty much everybody in your life wasn't really a friend. And you also think that Evan and Mackenzie are not going to stick around. I will tell you, you're wrong about that. I know that's why you did the life update video. It's because you wanted to see if you're right, and you're wrong. You're wrong on that. And as a matter of fact, I'm going back home for Thanksgiving. In what was it, next week? Yeah. And I got plans to see Evan and Mackenzie. They're the only two people in Springfield who I actually still have any sort of contact with. But not only is it kind of the worst it gets, it's also right before everything changes. Now, next year, there's going to be a big mass, there's going to be a pandemic. And you might even, pretty soon you're going to start hearing rumors of it in China. And if I'm remembering correctly, which I am, you're not going to believe You're gonna brush it off. You're like, nah, it's in China. It's fine. It's gonna be a big thing. It's gonna last a couple of years. The effects of it is gonna last a couple of years. For most of the world, it's all gonna shut down, sort of ish, but it's actually not gonna affect you all that bad. It's nice. You do end up getting sick from it, but it's like a mild cold. You don't even realize it's COVID until like sometime later on, a few days later, and you're like, oh, it was COVID. Oh, dang. But that all like everything starts shutting down in March of next year. So you've got a few months. You've got a few months for that. But here's the weird thing, because for everybody else, it's like the worst year of their lives. But for you, it's actually the best up until that point. And it all gets better from there on out. That year, like it doesn't really affect, you don't really have much of a social life. And because of work, you have constant communication. You get to interact with people on a daily basis anyways. So you don't really get much affected with it, except for you have to wear a mask, which is annoying, I know. But outside of that, life doesn't really change much because you don't really have a social life. So, except for church, I guess, you don't really go to church much because church is shut down. But yeah, it becomes the best year of your life. And that's when Brett tells you what he truly thinks of you. And that changes everything. Because you don't realize the kind of effect that you've had on people's lives. I don't even really know the kind of effect that you've had on people's lives. I don't. I've come to realize that we have a lot more of effect on people than we've ever realized, than we've ever noticed. Because we don't see that kind of thing. We don't see how that all plays out. But Brett is where he is now because of you. And he tells you that. And he changes your life. Because he becomes your best friend. He's the friend that you've been praying for. And through Minecraft and on Discord, you end up meeting some of his college friends. And then you get to meet them in real life. And they stop being just Brett's college friends. They become your friends. And you have an entire friend group, a bunch of people who are better friends to you now, or at least better friends to you years down the line. In the next couple of years, they'll become better friends to you than anyone who has been in your life up until this point. And it's hard to believe. It is. You'll even get to go to a wedding of a friend, and that was awesome. You get to meet their girlfriends, and they get married, and you've got friends who are, like, I think at this point, Computer House, which is kind of the core group of guys, right? You'll meet them all when you visit them in August of next year. Most of them are married now, and you're familiar with. There's 5 of them, including Brett, and 3 of them are married now, and you are very familiar with 2 of the wives. One of them you've only got to meet once at a wedding, and it's awesome. It's awesome that you get to be friends with these people. And the fact that, like, I mean, you don't even get to see them only a couple times a year, but you play games with them. You know, I haven't really gotten to play much with them this year in 2024. People have been busy, but you start playing Call of Duty, and you play Call of Duty with Brett, you play Call of Duty with the other guys, and it's like you're not very good. You're never good. You're not gonna believe it. But you can do pretty good. You can do pretty good, and you're not gonna believe that you're actually playing Call of Duty. And on top of that, another bombshell to drop on you. Another thing you'll never believe. Right now. I'm playing fantasy football with Matt. Yeah, I know. You the things that have changed, you're not gonna believe. Traditional guy stuff that you're not into, and listen, you do it because it allows you to hang out with people, and you have fun with it, and you enjoy it. It's fun. You're never gonna believe it. But over the next year, that's when, in a few months, you'll realize that you'll kind of come to the idea that you want to move out. And over the next year, God's gonna start cutting all the ties in your life that'll keep you in Springfield. And then in 2021, you'll spend most of the year attempting to move to Sioux Falls. I can tell you, you make it. It takes longer than you think. You know, your goal is going to be to hit it by June, but you're not going to hit it. You're not going to move till October. You actually move out. The day you move into your new place is October 1st. And you're not going to see it coming. You're not going to see when or how it happens, because you're going to spend the entire year getting rejected by companies. You're going to send out resumes. Nobody's going to look at them. It's going to feel futile. It's going to look like there's no hope, that there's nothing that can get you there. But at a certain point, you're going to take a risk. Not a huge major risk, but it's a risk nonetheless. And you take a chance, and just when you don't think that anything possibly get you there, and you don't think, you're thinking, you even try a backup route. You try a backup route of trying to maybe move to Kansas City. You're like, oh well, maybe Kansas City's the place. Maybe it's not Sioux Falls, and you're gonna try that, and that's not gonna work out. And then 2 weeks later, that's when everything goes down within a matter of 2 weeks. It goes from hopeless to happening in 2 weeks, and it's miraculous. And the lesson you're going to learn from that is that God has your back. Don't ever forget that. Through everything that goes on, God has your back. He's writing your story continuously. And you haven't gotten to that yet. You're right where everything is about to go down. Things are going to start happening over the next 5 years. That's how things start happening. And that's the main theme of your life. The song Glorious Unfolding from Stephen Curtis Chapman. That's it. That's what it is. And you make it to Sioux Falls. And you're never going to forget that. And you don't stop talking about it. Even now, I still talk about how I got here. And other things will happen, you know. A lot of times it feels like it's crazy, you know. It almost feels like a story with a bad writer because everything gets too convenient. Because everything feels a little too convenient. But that's how I know God has my back. Because especially when you start to consider an alternative route, a backup plan, essentially kind of cheat coding your way. When you start going down that route, that's when God changes everything. It's not gonna when you're looking for that thing, right? Whether it's a girlfriend or whether it's moving out, it doesn't happen. It ends up being right around the corner, and you don't ever see it coming. And then as soon as you pass into that intersection, and it hits you like a truck. You never see it coming. And yeah, I mean that's how it happened with the girlfriend too. We just started dating. We've been dating for almost 4 months at this point. And you get to meet the love of your life after you move. It's only 2 years from now. You meet her in 2 years. That's when you'll meet her. And I guarantee you will know who I'm talking about when you meet her. Because at this point, you know, like since high school, since Reagan, you haven't had any crushes or anything. You haven't actually really cared about any girl at all. You're like, yeah, that might be, she's attractive, sure, whatever. But you haven't actually, like, your attention hasn't been captured by anybody. And then you move to Sioux Falls. And then very quickly she captures your attention. And you'll know who it is. And here's the thing, over the next year, you'll get to know her, and a year after, so a little after a year after you end up meeting her, you tell her how you feel, and she rejects you. But don't lose heart, because she's not ready yet. It's gonna be for a stupid reason, and here's the thing, she's not even gonna tell you. She doesn't even tell you that she doesn't like you. And the reason for that is because she does. She doesn't actually realize that. That's the big thing. She doesn't actually realize, at that point in time, she doesn't realize how much she likes you. But be patient with her, because she needs time. And quite frankly, I don't think you're quite ready for that either. I don't even know if I'm ready for it. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But it takes a couple of years. You give her space. You give her time. And then in God's time, everything goes down. It all goes down very quickly. Very quickly. It all goes down, and you don't believe it, but it happens. And I think she's everything we need. Even counterintuitively, the problems that arise, the things that would be considered negatives, might be positives, you know. It's kind of hard to tell right now because I'm still in pretty early, still pretty in, but like you can't imagine anything else, anything better. And also, of course, you make friends here. Over the last couple of years, I've been going through the top 100 movies of all time. Got a poster for it and everything. And I've been going over that with 3 friends from church. You have quite a few friends from church, and yeah, it's fantastic to have them. And they are actual friends. They are. And the greatest thing that happens out of all of this is that you stop letting fear rule your life. It doesn't happen anymore. Fear no longer drives. And a lot of that has to do with Brett. Mostly has to do with Brett. You end up opening up to him first about stuff. And that allows you to be more open with people, be more real with people. I think that's what's allowed us to have more meaningful relationships, more meaningful friendships. And even with the guys in Kansas City, have better friendships because we're more willing to open up and talk about real life. Rather than at this point in time in your life, you don't really talk about real life or how you feel, because that's scary. But you get used to it. You get used to doing it, and Brett helps that a lot. A lot. It's the reason you can be who you are. In Sioux Falls, you can be the person you want to be. And at Sunday school, you finally feel at home. Or at least you finally feel like you fit in. And it's the first time in 12 years that happens. It gets better. It does. At this point, you don't have friends. At this point, you mean nothing to people. But that all changes. It doesn't stay like that. I remember the rants you'd go on when Mom and Dad tried to encourage us. And you'd be like, well, I haven't made any friends in 10 years. 10 years of living in Springfield and no friends. And, I wonder if that was because God doesn't want us to stay there. Because when we move, like everything changes when we move. And even now, I'm not staying in Sioux Falls for very much longer. I don't know how many more years I'm going to be here in Sioux Falls, but like it all changes when you move. Everything changes. And it starts changing before you move. It starts changing next year. Have heart. Have faith. Because God's got a plan. He's got a story. And when he reveals that story, when God's working in the background with all things. And when he reveals, when you have the big reveal, it's glorious. It's glorious. It's the roughest time right there. Right now for you, it's the roughest time. I want you to know it gets better. Truly. Life gets way better. I don't know where things are going to go from here. I don't know how far we can go. But the story is just beginning for you. It's just beginning. Don't give up.